Okay, so the next project we will be going on to will be a very short game. And in this game, you would, or what the user would be doing, would be they would need to try to click on the mouse. Now, as you can see here on my screen, I have two mice. I have one with black eyes, and black and grey, and I've got one which is red as well. Now, these mice will be appearing and disappearing constantly throughout the game, and what I need to do is I need to try and actually click on the mouse. And as you can see, I've got a timer on the side, 30 seconds, and as I click on the mouse, as you can see, my score goes up by 1. Okay. I've also got my red mouse, which, as you may have seen, as soon as I clicked it, my score actually went down by -5. So we will be creating a game like this. I've also incorporated a high score into my one. We can look at how we can do that later on. So we're going to start off with the game. We're going to get our backdrop in. We're going to get our characters in as well. So the first thing I want to do is go on to scratch.mit.edu. And once I'm on the site, I will click on create to create a new project. Okay, so if you guys can please do that for me. So log into Scratch, create a new project. Once your project is up and running, we can give it a relevant name. So it can be called, well, I'll give it a name later on. The first thing I want to do is I want to set my backdrop. So remember, I will go to choose a backdrop and I will search for a backdrop. And let's try to find a backdrop which would be good to use. So I'm going to use room 2. Okay. I'm going to get rid of my cat sprite, and I'm going to also choose another sprite, which I will use, which will be moving around my screen. So I'll think about exactly what we may want to catch. Let's try and find something which would be a little bit fun. Let's do this parrot. Okay, so I've got my parrot, quite colourful. Background's fairly colourful as well. I've got my parrot on the screen. So I'll let you guys choose a backdrop and a carrot sprite for you guys to use as well. Now I'm going to code this parrot. Think about, let's see, where am I going to go? I'm going to actually click on events, and I'm going to say as soon as my game starts, where my green flag is clicked, I want my sprite to appear and disappear. Which one of these am I going to use? I'm actually going to use looks. I will use right at the bottom, I've got show and I've got hide. Okay, and obviously, as you can understand, the show and the hide will make my character appear and disappear. So if I was to simply ask, say, when my green flag is clicked, hide and then show, if I test that out, as we can see, nothing is going on. So what can I add in the middle of that to get some sort of delay? For those of you guys who got that correct, it would be actually in control, and I can get it to wait a second. So now if I test that out, as we saw, it hid, he hid, he waited a second, and then he showed again. Okay, and I'm going to get that to repeat. Remember, I have, in control, I have 3 different types of loops. I've got a repeat loop, I've got a forever loop, and then I also have a repeat until loop. So these are loops which constantly go back and return and continue to do anything which is in that inside that loop repeatedly. So think about exactly which I wanted to use. These are actually called iteration. The word iteration is when you constantly go back and do something. So if I need to reiterate the fact that I've told you all to behave and listen up, that's me, repeating the fact that I need to say that. Anyway, so we can think about which one we want to use. For now, I will use the forever loop. The forever loop will do this forever. The repeat loop, the repeat 10 times, will tell it to do it 10 times. You can use that if you wish, but I'm not going to. And the repeat until loop will tell it to constantly do something until a condition is met. We will be using this later on, but for now, we're going to use the forever loop. So inside my forever loop, I have my hide, wait 1 second, and show. So as soon as my green flag is clicked, it will constantly hide, wait a second, and then show again. So let's see how that looks. Okay, so he's showing and he's hiding, which is working all fine. But obviously there is a problem. Can anyone tell me what that problem is? Good. Well, I need to get him to wait a second after he shows as well. So I'm going to drag another wait 1 second. Remember, the wait 1 second is in the control section. We can tell by the color where some of these can be found. And obviously now he's doing that a little bit better. Okay, now the next thing I want him to do is I want him to actually go into random places across the screen. So which one of these do you think I will use? Okay, so some of you guys may have guessed correctly. It will be motion. I'm getting him to move. Okay, and I'm going to actually use this block here, go to random. So I have different types of motion blocks. I have move, and obviously that would mean that he will move across the screen. I've got turn, so we'd ask him to turn a certain number of degrees. I've got go to, so I've got go to random position, and I've got go to set coordinates as well. So that would be if I actually wanted to set my coordinates myself. I've got glide. And what glide would do is he'll sort of glide across the screen. He would go to wherever I want him to go to, and it will take a certain amount of time. I've got point in direction. If I want him to point in a certain direction, that's similar to the turn 15 degrees, except instead of him turning a certain number of degrees, he'll point in a certain direction. Point towards mouse pointer, we will use that at some stage as well. I can also change my X and Y coordinates as well. And a few more bits there. So we are actually going to use a go to random position. And obviously I'm going to ask him to go to a random position. Now where in this block of code should I get him to go to random position? So there's a number of places where I can ask him to do that. It could be before the hide, or it could be after the hide. Either of them should work. So now what I've got with my code is when my green flag is clicked, forever, hide, wait a second, go to a random position, and then show. And then wait another second before you do the same thing again. Okay, so if you guys can code that for me, and obviously make sure that you test that out, and then we could come back and take a look. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to add is a score. Now, obviously, for any of you guys who don't know, a score is a way for someone to keep track of their progress, to see how well they're doing in the game. What we're going to use here is something called a variable. Now, think about what you may have heard of the word variable in the past. The word variable refers to something which changes. The variable is something which can change. So there would be a value which I'll refer to by name, and the value can always change. So I'm going to head over to variables, and I'm going to, at the top, I'm going to click on make a variable. Okay, there's loads of variables we can make. In this case, I'm going to call a variable, name my variable score. Okay, so now I have a variable called score. That's, we can see that at the top there. I can just choose whether I want to hide that or not. We're going to keep that there for now so that we can monitor exactly, monitor that it's working, and see how well I'm doing in the game as well. Now let's think about it. What do I want to happen to my score? Let's think about exactly when will it change, why will it change. So think about that. So the score would actually change every time that bird is clicked on. Okay, so I'm going to head over to events. And if you guys do remember when we made our when we made our band last week, we used a when this bright is clicked event. And again, obviously, what do we want to do as soon as he's clicked? We want him to go to, we want the score to increase by 1. So I'm going to head over to my variables, and I'm going to say change my variable by 1. Which variable? The score. Okay, so whenever this sprite is clicked, change the score by 1. And as we can see, I clicked on that and he's changed by 1. So again, if you guys want to head over and code that for me. Okay, now one issue I have is when the bird is there, okay, as you can see, my score is 6. Okay, I got 3 clicks there. Oh, just the one there. 3 clicks there as well. Oh, a few there. And obviously that's not ideal for the game. Okay, so what I would want it to do is as soon as this sprite is clicked, what can I do in order to stop the user from clicking more than once? Any ideas? Okay, the idea that I will use will be to actually get him to hide. So as soon as he's clicked, the score will go up by 1 and the bird will hide as well. So again, I'm going to head back to looks and I'm going to drag in that hide. Okay, so now as soon as I click him, he hides. So I am not able to get more than 1 point there. Okay. So as much as I'm trying to click and get more than 1 point, I'm only getting 1 point at a time because as soon as I'm clicking on him, he is actually hiding. Okay, so that's all good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give that a go again. So I'm going to start again. And as we can see, my score is still 28. It should go back to 0. So who can tell me exactly where I will go here in order to amend that? I want my score to go back to 0 every time we restart the game. It is actually in variables, and I will again go to set my variable, and that variable I will choose will be score, and I will set it to 0. But when will I get the score to set back to 0? Any ideas? It will actually be whenever my green flag is clicked. So if we look at the order of this code at the moment, when my green flag is clicked, the score is set to 0, and then my bird will continuously hide, wait a second, go to random position and show, and then wait another second. And anytime he is clicked, my score will change by 1. Okay, so I've got my project like so. Okay, what we want to do is we're going to leave that there. Feel free to test that out, ask a parent to test that out, ask a sibling to test that out. And what you can do is feel free to give me any other ideas in the comments if you would like me to add anything else to next week's project. I will have some ideas and I may also incorporate some of your ideas as well. Please also make sure that you look at the next video or the other video, which will be set in Google Classroom, and that will tell you exactly how to submit your work onto Google Classroom for me to take a look at.